Hi there. Thank you all for coming to our virtual roundtable um, around media and entertainment and technology and innovation. I'm so grateful for our sponsors, Rise of North America, to be helping us put this together. My name is ErinRose Widner. I'm with Verizon. I'm very excited to be here today with three incredible women who are also in the media entertainment space. And really why we're here is to just talk about media and entertainment and where it's going, where it's been, and what we're excited about in the future. I think what's so interesting about how long all of us have been in the M&E space is that it's evolving and it's evolved. And there's so much that we can always learn from each other. And so that's part of this conversation is just I wanted to get together a group of amazing people and just say, what are you working on? What's coming up for you? Because I think we all garner ideas from each other, and I think that's what's really exciting about the industry that we're in. So I'm going to have Nina kick us off with introducing herself.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Nina Walsh from Amazon Web Services, AWS for short. I'm the head of business development for media and entertainment for Australia and New Zealand. So what that means is I work closely with lots of customers in the media and entertainment space, from visual effects and animation to broadcast to our streamers, data and analytics as well. So yeah, it's great to be here with this awesome group of women. So thanks for having me. Naomi,
Jenny?
sorry, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks for handing me over to Nina. I'm Naomi Stopa. I'm the head of studio for Framestore. I've been with Framestore for about 6 months. I've been in visual effects, however, for 25 years, all of it in the Vancouver marketplace. So I've seen it grow up here and I've been part of that. I'm happy to say it's been a really great experience this past, most of them, I feel like it has been half my life actually. So I'm helping Framestore with their expansion into Vancouver. It's been a really great experience so far, and that's what my focus has been in the last 6 months. And I can dive deeper into kind of what we do, I think, later, but I'll hand it off to Jeny.
Oh, thanks. Hi, I'm Jeny Nicholson, and I am here with a company called DeepDub. We are a localization company, localization dubbing company, that relies on AI and technology to translate content and bring it to audiences around the globe. I've been with the company for an entire month. So I'm new in the role. I'm the VP of sales for the company, but I have been also, like similar to all y'all, I've been in my industry for a really long time. So I've been in localization for about 20 years on the sales and operations sides of localization. So kind of well-rounded experience in this sector. So yeah, hi everybody.
Hi.
And again, I'm ErinRose Widner. I'm with Verizon. I do global business development for media entertainment and technology, studio innovation. So I look at a lot of different solutions that Verizon offers and how they kind of fit in the M&E space, whether or not that is event, production, post, all of that. We're also looking at broadcasting over 5G right now, which is very exciting. So a few different areas there. And I've been in the space and for a very long time doing different things within M&E. So it's fun to learn more though. So I think the first one that I actually want to talk to is Naomi, because we were talking earlier and like I really don't have very much experience in the VFX space. So I'm so curious about how that has evolved and where it is right now. And I would love to hear a little bit more about what you've been doing in that field.
It's funny to hear you say that, because when that's all I know and I've learned for so much of my life, I'm like, how could you not know everything about visual effects? Everybody.
Here, I'm with ErinRose. I'm like really excited to hear all about it.
And Nina, I think you have a VFX background too, right? So yeah.
Yep. I'm only a mere decade though in comparison to Naomi and her experience, but yeah, I had the pleasure of working with Naomi up in Vancouver and spending almost 6 years in the industry up there, which was amazing because it is one of the global hubs for visual effects globally. But I'll let Naomi tell you about it, seeing she's the OG.
And that's where Nina and I became quite close, actually. We went through a lot during that time frame. Those 6 years that Nina was in Vancouver with us, I think Vancouver exploded. When I first started, I remember my first project was Outer Limits, which kind of ages me a bit, but I remember the
Yes.
shot as you walked out of a
I
spaceship.
love that show.
And it was a matte
I
painting.
actually really liked it.
Beautiful world, right? It's funny that I still remember that to this day. It's like, it just carries with me now. And to manage that work, I used paper and just good old fashioned paper and pen. So different from what we have to do now. It wasn't specialized, not in the Vancouver marketplace anyway. There's a lot of, I started in television. We obviously evolved a lot from there. Back in those days, we used Inferno, Henry's to composite, very high-end machines that are still around today, but they're more for commercial work and, very high-end short form work, I would say, versus what we're doing now, which is a lot of different softwares now, very specialized. And obviously it's evolved a lot from back in those days, right, with different databases and softwares and what we've evolved to now. I just feel like it's a different lifetime ago. We went through so many iterations from, even back in those days when we did get into film projects, a lot of film IO, a lot of time code conversions in my head. There wasn't the automation that we see now and what it's actually coming to, when I see how we're always looking for ways to progress measures, how we can iterate while still keeping the creative flair. We want our artists every day to be able to focus on that. The more we can really enable them to do that, which obviously ties to production workflows and how we track all of that, allows the product to be that much better and to get to bring the vision to life of the filmmakers that we work with. I could go on, so I can.
No, it's great.
It ties to the world of Jeny, and trying to find machine learning and workflows. And obviously we touch on with Nina all the time with how we're going to render the cloud services that are provided. All of that is such this big, huge world that didn't exist when I first started with my clipboard.
I think just building on that, the role that technology has played within this space in particular, I think organically visual effects has always been very innovative as a craft. You're always trying to raise the bar on the creative output and how you do that. So thinking back to my time at Animal, we went from doing the Lego movie where you literally dealing with Lego bricks to then where we're doing Peter Rabbit, where we were dealing with furry bunnies. And so, our team internally had to completely rebuild the pipeline from dealing with Lego to dealing with cute bunnies. And so along with that, there's all this innovation that happens. And so for me, from working on that side to now being on this technology side, it's really about getting the tech out of the way of the creative process so that the creatives can do what they do best, which is, build amazing virtual worlds and characters and creatures, to get that story portrayed on the screen.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I think like such a hot topic right now, obviously, is like virtual production and how that's playing a role, right? And what we're seeing, the content and the worlds being created and with all of those engines. So like, I think that's just kind of a fascinating place to be in right now. And so Naomi, are you delving into that at all
Yes,
with
absolutely.
Unreal? Yeah.
I mean, there's projects that we have that we're currently working on that have had the virtual production, started with virtual production, of course, and we're working within now. It is a lot of buzz around that right now, and of course I think we have several projects actually that most projects now are really using that technology. And it's an evolution, I would say. It's a process, obviously, and I feel like we're in the middle of it all right now. But eventually, it's just going to keep moving toward that, right? Where that space is going to be there, and the technology with gaming and visual effects and how it's all coming together. We really are colliding all at once to make things more efficient, the filmmaking process much easier, I guess, and all of it is in play right now.
It's interesting in VFX, especially like ErinRose, like you were saying, like the technology is really there to supercharge the creativity. And I think that that's just really like, I think, you know, in all of our day-to-day jobs, it's kind of like, that's the ethos of like what we're trying to do is like, let the technology give way to the people that are the creative side. And in my case, like being so far down the line in production, like post production and localization, although I will say many people are starting to think about it earlier up in the chain. But you know, for us, we're so far down the line that, you know, technology for us is like so important in terms of time to market, because all these people work so hard on this product, and we all just want to get it out to an audience. That's what we're doing at the end of the day, is like give people the experience, right? Like that's the ethos of what we're all trying to do. And in localization, I think a lot of the technology is there to create efficiencies in time to market, ultimately to get those stories out to the world quicker.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I think when we look at, you know, COVID and how that accelerated kind of, right, like that theatrical release and that streaming release date sometimes in sync, like there's even more of that pressure. There's more of that timeline to get all of those deliverables. I was having a conversation at IBC where we were kind of talking about that and how, you know, back like 15 years ago, you had some time to like come up with a theatrical version, the airplane version, you know, the DVD version, whatever it was. And now it's like, oh no, we're going. You have to have all of them ready to go, you know, and I think that does, like, that's the localization right there too. I mean, it's every piece of it.
It's everything,
you know?
yeah. I mean, we're working more and more in tandem with the content creators, whereas it used to be like, you know, everything would be done and we'd get a nice little package and then we would go localize it and, you know, get it out to the platform or wherever it's going. Now we find ourselves working in tandem with productions, even like more and more, which is actually exciting because it gives us a little more creative direction to be able to work with those teams. But it's and again, time to market, right? Everything's launching on the same day, like the entire season on the same day. So that's been a fun challenge. Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I think, so I want to go back to also like that point about technology enabling creativity. And I think the thing that I have found so interesting is I've heard some pushback about like, oh, you know, like with technology, is it putting creatives out of jobs, you know? And one of the things that I've actually heard is that we actually are at a shortage of people to implement this technology. So the technology is actually there. And so when you think about like the careers and the opportunities that students have coming out of school right now, you know, to really engage in technology and creativity, it almost feels like there's more of an opportunity than there was 20 years ago before we had so much technology available to us. And I don't know, like, you know, Naomi, from your standpoint with VFX, and Nina also, and Jeny, you know, like, are you seeing that as well? Like where there is that kind of like shortage of people, you know?
There's so much opportunity out there. I encourage anybody who will listen, who has wants a career change or who has children, that don't discourage them from really following like their passion, which might be film or television, and getting into the technology world. You know, whether it can be, you know, whether it's software, pipeline, technology, artistry, production, anywhere in there, there's so many job opportunities globally. I would say that there's all around the world, right, that we have a shortage everywhere. And that's across, I think, most facilities and industries that I know. We're all facing that. And we've all come together to try to figure out how to get through that, because there's a lot of challenging times during the pandemic and now post-pandemic. Kind of how it's looking right now is still trying to, you know, training initiatives, really trying to support the employee experience and how to grow from within, and really trying to make that a really great, you know, strategy for us, which I think Framestore has always been really strong at. So coming into that and seeing that already in place and just using that to our advantage to really support what we need to get our projects done.
Yeah. I think building on that, you know, I work with a lot of the educational institutions in Australia and New Zealand, talking about literally that skills gap and how can we, you know, help to develop that talent faster. And from an industry lens, I mean, there's the ILM have their Jedy Academy, and Technicolor have the Technicolor Academy, and that really is that fostering of those skills in-house. Animal Logic have the UTS Animal Logic Academy as well with the University of Technology in Sydney. So there is definitely that focus on developing those skills early on. And I guess in this new world, the good thing is that now, where you would have had to pick up your life and move across the other side of the world, there are opportunities for you to work remotely. From an Australian perspective, I mean, Australia's huge, and there's so many, places that people want to live that are not just in the big capital cities where it's, obviously expensive. So technology is now driving that capability for people to be able to, stay on country, or stay in the small town that they, grew up in and they want to stay in longer term and still work for, these companies that are making these amazing films and projects. So that's something that, we're so remote down here in this part of the world, but it's still giving people that opportunity because of the innovations that have grown, as a result of the pandemic. And as I said, just over time, we're always innovating and evolving. And so we've come up with ways of working without people having to pack up their lives.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's true. I mean, it really accelerated, right, during the pandemic, just like that, where you had to work remotely and you couldn't have everybody there in a studio. So it's like, how do you fix that? So
and ErinRose, going back to what you're saying about like talent shortages, like we've definitely seen that in the localization dubbing world, where there really is a shortage of creative teams. And because there's so much content out there that's all getting localized at the same time, we've really seen that strain of not just voice talents, but also like the creative sides of the adaptation and the directors and even engineers. So, I mean, I know there's a few companies I've heard out there that are creating like academies, like voice talent academies, or like apps that aggregate voice talents, and I think that's amazing and has to happen. The flip side of that is what, like for example, what my company's doing is machine generated voices to kind of be another tool in the tool shed of being able to get this content out fast to the market. But yeah, especially during COVID, we definitely saw, from the localization perspective, very traditional studios that would only dub in studio, in big recording rooms, were all kind of experimenting with remote recording, and many of them are still happily using it, and the product is fantastic. So there's been a lot of upside, in terms of new technologies coming out in the past year.
I think we, like, from an evolution perspective, with a technology lens, we really accelerated, probably what we had looked at for the 5 to 10 year strategy became the 6 to 12 month strategy, which, I was still working in animation then. And for us, I mean, we had the occasional person that worked remotely, but it certainly wasn't, on our medium short-term roadmap. It was a long-term, we'll get to it at some point, but then, the security and all of these other, restrictions. And so we really made a ton of progress in that time. And that's where, now being on the AWS side, part of what I love about my job is I'm literally working with customers. I'm hearing what their challenges are. I'm bringing that feedback back in-house, and then we're developing products and services to enable our customers to change the way that they're working.
Yeah. And I think, I'm going to just say really quickly, I think that's what's interesting actually about what AWS and Verizon are doing, right, is that we are really looking at how do we solve for media entertainment with the solutions that we have in place. So I think that's actually been a really big focus for both of our companies in the last couple years, is really accelerating that.
And look, as Naomi said, we go way back, and I certainly didn't think that I'd be working for a tech, big tech company in the near future. But it's amazing the overlap between, the industry and now technology. And for me, part of what I love in my day-to-day is I get to work with the Framestores, the Widders, the Animal Logics of the world. but from the AWS side. And that's something that we've done from an M&E perspective, is we've invested in talent from the industry so that, you know, we speak the language, we understand the pain points, because we've literally been there in the trenches ourselves doing it. And that's been a very deliberate thing for us, is we've looked at, you know, M&E, and we've invested in it as a company, from, you know, a skills, a business development, sales perspective, but then from a products and, you know, long-term roadmap and what the products that we're developing in-house. And that's what, I mentioned. I love that, you know, I can sort of bring back those customer comments or the voice of the customer to our internal service teams to then help develop the future products and services that we have for the M&E space.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's so important too, that you just mentioned about like that actual industry expertise coming into a company like AWS or Verizon. And that's exactly what we did too, is we invested in that same way, which is bringing in people who had actually had that experience in that production, in that post-production world, to come in and say, oh, what are we doing here in this space? You know, to look at it a little bit more from that lens, which I think is so important. So. Yeah, I think like when you can get that specific, it really does elevate that experience for the customer too. Naomi, I think you were going to say something.
I see so much crossover now, like, and it actually people just going back and forth between the technology companies and visual effects companies. It's just part of the everyday now is what I'm seeing. And, you know, people jump over there for stints and then they come back for a little bit to work on a project. A lot of people will come to a company because they're like, oh, I want to work on that project. And they now bring experience from that field. You know, it's really beneficial to everybody. And it's nice to see how we've come together and connected globally that way.
I'm seeing that in my industry as well, even, you know, working for essentially a tech company. A lot of people on the in the company are creatives, like voice actors and adapters. So that's really cool to have all that experience, you know, that people with that kind of tenure in what they've been doing for years coming to the tech side and saying, I want to help build this product because I've been doing this for 20 years and I am a voice actor and I'm the voice of so-and-so in this Disney movie. Like, it's pretty cool to be working with people that have like, you know, both sides of the coin. Because nowadays it's like, it's almost necessity, right? Because technology in media and entertainment it's unstoppable. I mean, it's just...
Yeah.
Gotta have,
I keep thinking like we're just on such this precipice right now in terms of media, entertainment, and technology and where we're going and just how exciting it is. And I remember even just like, you know, with the VR space, I remember like 5 years ago, I was like looking in my Oculus and I just felt like this is such a cool experience. But I also felt like I was looking at the cell phones from the 90s that like would be in the car where they were like really chunky and like big, but like you can see it. You can see like where it's going and like what the impacts are. And I thought like, oh my gosh, like it's just fascinating. It's like so exciting to be at this place in time, I think, in media entertainment right now. It just feels very limitless. And I think, Jeny, one thing that you mentioned that I thought was really interesting too is about, you know, how there's that shortage of talent within dubbing. And I think that's just such a example, right, of, you know, just an industry like your company is meeting a demand, right? So when you talk about like these creatives who are starting this company, it's meeting this demand in the marketplace within M&E that basically was saying, there's so much content that's churning out. Like, and all of this needs to be localized. And when you're looking at the content providers who are creating the mass amounts of content, like, and they want to leverage it globally. And I think that's the other thing that COVID did, right? Is it just brought us globally together so much more than it ever had in the past, you know? So it's very exciting.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm blinding you guys right now. I'm like trying to find a better angle. It's like really crazy time of day in my house. But yeah, no, totally meeting a demand. And honestly, you know, I was working for one of the biggest localization companies out there, and even being, you know, and this is no secret. I mean, everybody's launching at the same time. You know, we had like Disney and HBO Max and Sky Showtime and all these companies wanting to go to market. within a 6-month time frame, there's just not enough people to do the work. So,
Right.
so being part of a company that's just adding, you know, a AI layer to such a creative industry, I'm really excited about seeing where that's going to go. And really, you know, there's a lot of companies out there doing this, but it's gaining momentum so fast. I mean, I've only been at this company for a month, and I've already seen so many, you know, changes happen in the tech that are just producing such great results. And I'm excited to be part of that. Hold on, I'm gonna.
Yeah, that's great.
A little better.
Good.
There we go.
Yeah.
Sorry, should have.
I just had to mute Jeny because I had kids running by. I love the sound of kids.
Dog barking and
One question that I have for Nina and Naomi, kind of around the AI, you know, which I think has gotten a lot of attention recently, is around the AI generated images. You know, and with both of your backgrounds with VFX, like how are you seeing a place for that within, you know, like where do you see that going? So I think that's really fascinating. I mean, that's just gotten so much, you know, it's been kind of like in our feeds, right, recently, just so much more where it feels like it's really starting to take off and like that popular.
Yeah, all the Tom Cruise deep fakes that they do, of course, right?
Right.
I mean, obviously, I think more realistic recreations of celebrities are a big topic, right? But it's also a kind of a sensitive one of, you know, where that leads to and all that. I think it's complicated, I think. You know, it's something that everybody is still working through, and there's a lot of R&D projects going on. There's even one at Framestore. I think it's a really huge, you know, R&D effort for most companies now is to, you know, the digital human is a big one in the visual effects industry for sure.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I just saw it was like a ad or something on LinkedIn. A guy talking, and I watched this thing, and at the end he's like, I'm a completely AI generated person. And I was like, what? I mean, I would have never guessed. But yeah, it's a tricky topic. It's a tricky topic. You know, I think that companies like ours, you know, the ones that we're in, hopefully we will take part in sort of shaping the future of how these technologies are used in the right way and, you know, monitored and that kind of thing. I mean, it's pretty crazy right now, the technology that's out there. I mean, I like the Instagram filters, I'm not gonna lie. I'm into that part, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's requests for it for sure, right? So many different, whether it's commercials or aging or de-aging, you know, there's a lot of that. I'm trying to think of when a project I was at ILM during at ILM for Irishman. Of course, there was a lot of work that went into that and how it's evolved even since then. But the product just keeps getting better and better. Sorry, Nina, I cut you off.
No, I think I was going to sort of say that, yeah, I think again, like it's looking at the creative output and you know what it is that companies want to achieve, and then figuring out the technology associated with making that happen and doing it, you know, faster and cheaper and to a higher level. You know, where we're raising the bar on those creative outputs, which means we have to raise the bar on the way that we actually support and drive that technological innovation as well, because, you know, otherwise, yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be as impressive as it could be. And, you know, as you all know, like the timelines for these productions are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And yet the expectation for the creative is going up and up and up. And so, you know, the only way that we can really support that is by having this, you know, evolution of technology alongside, you know, the creative requirements or expectations that are out there. And Irishman's a prime example. Like when you have an actor, you know, that you want to use and all of a sudden, you know, you can make them look younger and have that same person, you know, used throughout, then you know, that's a pretty cool thing to be able to show on the screen, as opposed to having, you know, different people in various stages of the film. So yeah, I think from our perspective, again, it's like 90% of the products and services we create are based on things that customers ask for. So again, it's like making sure that we have our fingers plugged into all of the different things that are happening from an innovation perspective with all of our different types of customers. And as you all know, like M&E is so broad now, like we sort of have these 5 industry innovation centers that are focused on, content production, broadcast, direct to consumer, media supply chain, and then you've got your data and analytics. But there's so much more. There's, ad tech, there's all these other industries that align very closely to that. And there's a lot of crossover. Sports is a prime example of, it's just evolving, like the what users want, that user experience, and the viewing opportunities that they want is just changing, feels like by the week, alongside that. And again, technology is driving a lot of that innovation to improve the actual viewer's experience, be it at home or in the stadium as well.
Yeah. Well, they're also looking for more of like that, that unique experience as well. So it's not only faster, but it's like, what are you going to do to make it more of a unique, tailored experience for me? And so
personalized, exactly. Personalized to your taste.
Yeah. So I think like that's also, right, such an interesting area that we're looking at, just from like that marketing standpoint, but also from that immersive experience standpoint is, where is that going? And as we see, I'm going to say, like, from Verizon standpoint, as we see connectivity get better and, the latency go down, and just like from Verizon's end, we're really hot right now with mobile edge compute, which goes with 5G, and how like those experiences really like can be tailored so much faster or so much better, because that latency that was there, years ago isn't there anymore. So now you really can be more adaptable. So it's really interesting, like that tailored content. I was thinking about that the other day. I was driving in LA and I was thinking, I saw like a digital billboard, and I was thinking that when I first landed in LA years ago, how it was just, movie posters at the bus stops as you would drive by, and now you're seeing the digital, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, like how many years away are we from personalized? Like I walk up and it's like, hey, ErinRose, like, have you seen there's a new season of Black Mirror, like, because like it can tell who I am based on all of, everything.
Is that what you're referencing when you're talking about personalized experiences? Because
I think there's that, but there's also, like, to Nina's point too, like in terms of sports, there's so much stuff that you can do within sports as well, right? So, if you're watching a game, you can follow that one player, you can see the stats on that one player, you can, I know they're like minting NFTs like with that one player, like depending on what your interests are.
You can choose where you want
something like that at SoFi, with like cameras around SoFi Stadium. I think I saw something like that.
Yeah, you can choose. Do you want to be like up in the nosebleeds, or do you want to be down on the sideline? You can decide where you want to sit virtually for your optimal viewing experience.
Right.
That's I'm a sports stuff, you can't tell.
And I think that's also, like, let's go back to VR. And think about that, where you could actually now buy those tickets where you are on like the court, like you can, or on the field, like wherever it is, like you can actually now have that experience in that headset and really feel like you're part of the game. And I think like that's also, wow, like, it's democratizing kind of that experience, where you don't have to buy maybe those hundreds of dollar tickets, I guess. And, make the trek in traffic.
And like circling back around to virtual production again, it's where the setup or the infrastructure combined with the tech is then enabling the director to make those creative decisions in the moment, as opposed to waiting till the end of the day, watching the dailies and going, oh damn, we need to go back and reshoot that because the sun wasn't in the right position. You're literally making those changes live on the spot with the actors in the space. So again, they can act out a scene and then, make creative decisions immediately on the spot based on having the actual environment there behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
Are you referencing
Exactly.
like the volume or the Unreal? Is that what the term I heard recently and I didn't know what it meant?
Yes,
Yeah.
Unreal Engine. Yeah.
And that is incredible technology. I mean, wow. I obviously, as a consumer, my first entry to that whole thing was like watching Mandalorian, right? And
Right.
blown away by it, like blown away. And just now I'm seeing it more and more and more, and it looks so seamless and amazing. And like you said, for the creatives to be able to be on set and make those decisions quickly and not have
Yeah.
to spend all the money to fly everyone to another location where, I mean, it's kind of insane.
And think about the actor where previously they would be acting out, they'd be dressed in full costume, they've been in hours of makeup depending on the character that they're playing, and yet
Yeah.
they've got a blue or a green screen behind them. Whereas
Yeah.
now they actually have, the visual of the environment that they are acting in, which can only, improve their performance as well. They're great. Don't get me wrong. They're professionals in their field, but I can only imagine having the actual landscape there to sort of riff off would be a lot better than having just a standard blue or green screen behind you.
I did
Right.
watch those
Yeah.
Mandalorian featurettes, and the actors were actually saying that exact thing, like how incredible it was to to the creative process, and everyone in the room that's seeing it
Yeah.
fully, remarkable.
Yeah, we did a project last year that I thought was really interesting where we had that virtual stage, and then we brought in, like it was like an animated character also, but then there's like a live person, right? But the animated character was being voiced and acted in mocap suit like down the street in another studio. So the actor who was like actually on like the virtual production stage could see on the virtual stage like the eye line of like where the animated character would be. And like I think that is also really awesome, right? Where it's not just that green screen because like you can really actually visualize it, and even just like that eye line is just incredible. So it is such a game changer in terms of even creating like a more authentic moment. Using technology, which is kind of interesting, right? It's like this organic, it feels more organic, and you're using technology. So I don't know, it's very cool. But the one thing that I was curious about, Jeny and Naomi, I guess, is like with like technology and AI and like the actors and the voices and all of that. How are you training voices, Jeny, at like the company that you're with based on actors that are out there right now, or how are you looking at that, like voice alikes, or are you trying to create unique voices, or
Well, there's both. So there's voice matching, which is kind of like the James Earl Jones thing that Reese Beecher had just done so beautifully, where they are taking that exact voice print and creating that voice, that model that can be used, for years and years and years down the road. What we're concentrating more on is machine generated voices. And if you're asking me how it's done, that is the secret that I do not understand, but there are many people in Tel Aviv working on that right now. But yeah, the machine generating is, we're still actually using voice actors in studio to create like a performance track or like a guide track,
yeah,
right? So
yep,
if you've got a movie with 20 characters, I can bring you into a studio and have you kind of read those parts with some level of inflection, based on the
yep,
scene. And then from there, the AI algorithms and the machine learning, when those models are applied to your performance track, we can then extract and layer many different models on top of that to create a very unique sounding voice. So the possibilities are wildly endless. And right now, the way a lot of this technology is that in the M&E space, we still need performances to guide the AI in creating like an authentic performance. I know there's people working on even like the front end of that, where we would use machine translation with different kind of algorithms to produce emotion. So there's lots of different ways that this technology is being shaped. But ultimately right now, the voice actor is still a very important piece in the whole process. And I don't see that changing very soon, which is, I think, a very healthy environment. I myself am a voice actor, so it's like, seeing where we can bridge the traditional and the futuristic AI thing and put it together. So that, I hope that kind of answers the question. I mean, when it comes to how, that is
no. And I mean, I think like this, Jeny, but like I also have like this background in speech rec technology. So like for me, like I'm so fascinated by what's going on right now, where it was like 15 years ago, and I find it like so cool and fascinating what's going on, and like again, like those possibilities just feel more limitless even.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny, ErinRose and I go way back too, actually. If I can say that she actually hired me years ago at SDI Media, which is where we kind of, where I kind of started my career in localization. And we've together produced, voice data collections for these kind of engines, for these AI engines. So it's really interesting to kind of see it from all these different angles too, right? Like, when we're producing these huge data collections, and now we're seeing how that data is actually being transformed and used in these algorithms that can create all of these unique voices. And all those unique voices really just add to, the capacity that's out there with voice talents, and help us, get more stuff out to market. So.
Yeah. So we have a question that I'm going to throw out to all of us. And it's agreed or disagreed. If AI technologies that facilitate art creation like Midjourney enable anyone to create art, in general market get flooded with art, which reduces its value. So what do we think about that?
Dang.
Well, I mean, I guess what I would say to that is, listen, like since the invention of YouTube, since the invention of, creating films even easier for anybody, people can create films however they want. Does it reduce the value of, Oscar-winning performance? Does it reduce the value of that? Like, I think there is like this market for everything. But it is an interesting question. But like that would be my take on it. But what do you ladies think?
I mean, it's a really interesting question. I'm kind of probably not going to put this together right, but at my years of being a musician and then seeing the music industry really change because of technology, where suddenly everyone is a musician and everyone can put out an album. And back in the 80s, that wasn't the case. And then it became the case. And then there was so much music everywhere that even the music on with your favorite artists, like they are no longer able to really make a living, because the music industry sort of became, I wouldn't say diluted, but it just changed, where rights and performances and people weren't getting paid in the same way that they used to get paid. But like now, even that's changing, and there's new technologies out there that are able to, get people, well, not get people, but like on Spotify, like I just saw an article recently where there's new ways to pay artists based on streams, and like that number is actually increasing. And so I think for a while that technology did sort of dilute the market and maybe reduce value, at least monetarily, for the artist. But even that's changing now. So yeah, maybe it just needed time to catch up with itself. But that being said, I do feel like there's room for everything. I don't know if I like wrapped my.
No, that was great. Nina, do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's democratizing the opportunities, right, for lots of different types of people to engage, or like as you touched on with the filmmaking process, like where you once needed multi-millions of dollars to make a film, there are other options now that you can look at. So again, I think it's almost letting more people, or giving more people the opportunity to get in the market and create art and test out their skills and bring a different perspective. Again, I think that's really important, is giving, you know, various cultures and locations around the globe an opportunity to have a, you know, an opportunity to create something or get into that market with, you know, something that different perspective that they've got to offer, or a different story that they might have to tell. So
Yeah.
that's my
I love that. I love that perspective about opening up to more of a global perspective. And, you know, and I think, yeah, you know, the person who, I can't draw anything. I can't draw a thing. I wish I could. I think that's such a superpower. But like the idea of being able to, like, you know, put in some prompts and create something that might be a cool image, that's kind of exciting, right? I don't know. Yeah. But Naomi, I don't know how you feel about it, since you're more in that day to day with VFX and
Yeah, you know, it's so I understand the question there, because, you know, it becomes so commonplace, and at some point it does get flooded, and then but I also really value the idea of what Nina's perspective on it, and really allowing more global perspectives on whatever that might be, right? So, and, you know, it's that kind of balance, and where that will be in the future, I can see it becoming, you know, it'll be interesting to see how it evolves, but more perspectives is always a good thing.
yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, we're almost at the top of the hour. I don't know if there are any other Q&A we'll have out there, but if you do, you can put them in the chat. Um, and yeah, I mean, I'm just excited that we were able to have this conversation, and really get to know what the other people are doing, you know, in this industry. I think, again, it's like, you know, I still don't completely know what Naomi does. I you know, because, like, I think it's like, I don't know the VFX world still, but I think it's,
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
very exciting.
we
And
do,
like,
just to really quickly touch on that, you know, I didn't really talk about it much. You know, it's everything
no,
we do is computer generated. We do a lot of character work. You know, if you were to jump onto our website, you would see the amazing projects that
yes,
we've done. You know, there's a lot of past work that we've done with, I'm trying to think of what's most recognizable. It could be Paddington to Rocket and Groot to, you know, really high-end features there. Also the immersive world with a lot of the rides out there at the amusement parks, right down to some to commercial work. It's just a full, you know, many different divisions that are there. And, you know, and to keep up with how things are evolving right now, we have a short project on the go, a short film that we're doing that's called, I always get the wording wrong, the Framestore Unreal Shot Engine, which is, you know, really helping us move forward in that world as well. That's being directed by our Chief Creative Officer as well. So there's so much going on there. In Vancouver specifically, which is what I'm helping the expansion with and overseeing, is 6 projects that is a mix of streaming and feature work. That's it in a nutshell.
that's great. I was more just making fun of myself because I just don't know that world. So you have, I think anyone who knows the VFX world completely can zero in and know exactly what you're doing.
I think, like, as we said, there's so much crossover between, we're all in different spaces, but there's so much crossover within the general lens of M&E. And I mean, yeah, I've obviously come from that background with Naomi in visual effects, but I think, again, like, as the creative, you know, bar gets higher and higher, and you need more and more technology, AI, ML, in order to do those types of, you know, workflows, or, you know, try to get some of the more repetitive tasks automated to, you know, give the artists more time to focus on their actual craft. All of that requires a ton of, you know, compute power and capacity. And for us, again, internally, we're always listening to that feedback to then develop, you know, new products and services that can then hopefully speed up that process. Not hopefully, definitely speed up that process. And, you know, enable people to work from all corners of the globe. And you touched on it, ErinRose, with the latency perspective, And I mean, I think Naomi and I hear latency and like clench up, because like that is one of the biggest pain points for a digital artist, is doing
Yeah.
their craft. And God forbid there be, you know, a lag on the screen. It's like World War IV broke out. And, you know, so making sure that we are always giving them the optimal experience from no matter where they're working from, like be it at home, be it out at, you know, the country house or wherever, making sure that they had that same experience that they would have if they were in a big city in a studio.
Yeah, what a great point. I mean, especially since so many people, I'm sure, are just working from home now, so it's different,
Yeah.
right? You have to be connected and show people also, like, you know, be able to share that work as you're going. So yeah, definitely makes such a difference. Well,
Yeah,
cool.
actually, that's a good point. Sorry, one last thing, I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
again, is that the whole review process is something that the industry had to really pivot on as well, because typically you'd go and sit in a review theater and you would get the feedback from the, you know, compositing supervisor or the VFX soup or CG soup, whoever it is, in the room in the moment. And again, we've had to virtualize all of that to enable people to, you know, review shots remotely, have people, you know, online, live, you know, sub 20 millisecond latency, you know, so that they can review back and forth, share comments, be drawing on the screen whilst, you know, seeing that instantaneously. And all of that technology has evolved tenfold since, you know, the pandemic and changing the way of working. But I know from, you know, from a perspective of, you know, being an employee myself, you know, it's added that flexibility where I can be at home, I can go for a run and jump on and quickly review something. And then, you know, if I want to go into the office because I want to see some people and, you know, have lunch with human beings in person, then I can do that. Or I can, you know, go pick up the kids or whatever the case may be. It has given us a bit more flexibility and time back, I think, to try to get the work-life balance hopefully a little bit better or more even.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's true. I think that's so true. Yeah, I mean, I think we got a lot of requests too during the pandemic, even just like bringing Video Village to the producers in a completely different state, you know, where they're just like, we want to be able to weigh in on what's going on set, but we're not going to fly there, you know, and so I think we're also seeing a bunch of that too, which is kind of interesting. And so how much of that is to say, how much of it, you know, has now changed, who can be hired, you know, what that workflow looks like, and, you know, will people go back completely? It feels like it'll be more of like a hybrid approach to how they do production in the future. So
Yeah, and I mean, even with your work from home space, you'll notice I have a wall behind me here, right? We always have to have all these measures in place and the layers to access imagery and all that. It's quite complex, but worth it because it allows us the flexibility of a hybrid working model, right? The security that's in place, so everybody takes it very seriously.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for doing this virtual roundtable. It was so fun to just chat and, you know, talk about what we're doing. And I also want to thank Rise again for sponsoring this event. And you can sign up for future events with them at risewib.com. And we just have like a really great lineup of events, and membership is free for anyone and everyone. So thank you. And thank you for joining, Jeny, Naomi, and Nina. It was so nice to see your lovely faces and just chat and you know, I don't know, just chat. It was fun.
Connecting us, Nina.
Thank you so much. This was so fun to just hear what everybody's doing, and, you know, in terms of just like being at the end of the content chain, like, you know, production chain, hearing what you ladies are doing and seeing how all of our pieces kind of do fit together. Like at the end of the day, we're all in it for the same thing, you know, the same piece of content or whatever it is that we're getting out the door. It's really interesting. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's like, I think it's always good to learn from each other, right? I mean, we just have to keep learning. Especially since it's you what?
In a safe space where we can just talk about it, you know, with each other.
Yes,
Ask
yes.
ask what we think are silly questions, which aren't, and get
Right.
the answer and feel, feel good about it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And are any of you going to NAB New York? I'm just
Not
No,
curious.
me.
I'm not.
Okay, all right.
No.
I was gonna say I'll see you there, but maybe I'll see other people there. But all right, great. Well, thank you so much again. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us at home, and thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.